Tomb Raider, an Origins film. Mark is in Toronto, which is why if you're trying to watch on the webcam, I'm afraid it's just me.
It's just you in a room on your own.
For which I can only apologise. Anyway, Tomb Raider, what do you think?
Well, it was interesting that she was mentioning there, when they first talked to her, she said, hasn't this been done before? Because, had in the Angelina Jolie movies. I interviewed Angelina Jolie some years ago for the Culture Show. And I think she'd made great movies, but I really didn't like the Tomb Raider movies at all. And I said to her, I didn't like the Tomb Raider movies at all. And she said, well, that's as maybe. But, she said, I've met loads and loads of young women who found them empowering. And, they're not aimed at you. They're aimed at that audience. And it was interesting hearing Alicia Vikander say in a slightly roundabout way that she had a similar relationship with the character and with the films themselves. So she said that she did have that response. I didn't. I really didn't like those movies. And the first thing to say is that as somebody who's not a video game player and as somebody who found the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies fairly intolerable, this is better. And I think Alicia Vikander is the key to it being better. As she said there, this is based on the reboots from 2013 video game, which was an origin story and which essentially repositioned the figure as less of a fantasy figure, more of a kind of real heroine. And all the way through that interview, Alicia Vikander was talking about the idea of making the story feel more real, making the conflicts and the things actually feel like they had some kind of weight. And she described it as being a coming of age story, which it is. And all of those things are true. I think that is absolutely on the money in terms of describing what the film is attempting to do. When we first meet her character, she's this kind of headstrong bicycle courier. She won't sign off on her father's inheritance because she won't accept that he's dead. Kristen Scott Thomas, as we heard in that clip, she's trying to get her to sign the papers. But then she finds her father's secret archive, and the archive, there's an instruction to her which says, if you found this, then I'm no longer around, and what you must now do is destroy all this stuff so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. So she probably doesn't destroy all this stuff. She probably, of course, she does literally the opposite of what she's told to do. She goes off in an adventure to go and find the island where he went to, taking with her some important vital information that absolutely must not fall into the hands of the wrong people. And you know what happens? It falls into the hands of the wrong people. So having not gone in with particularly high expectations, other than the fact that I really, really like Alicia Vikander, she won the Kermode Award for Best Actress for her role in...
What an accolade. It was the one thing that she wanted to talk about.
It was the thing that broke her career, as far as I understand. Broke in every sense of the word for a Royal Affair, which she was absolutely brilliant. And the film is sort of packed with action set pieces that play out very much like video game challenges, and I think that's deliberate. I thought that was how they were meant to be. A couple of people have said to me that they thought that some of the CG was ropey. Did you?
There are a couple of moments. I mean, it may well be the version that I watched, but it felt a couple of times as though I was watching. I was seeing it in 2D. That it was that it had suffered some. And there's a couple of scenes on bridges and waterfalls where I thought the CG was a little bit ropey. But
did you? Okay, fine. Well, I didn't think that was the case. What I thought was there were times in which the film was deliberately mimicking video game challenges, which I thought that was a kind of aesthetic decision. I had no problem with that at all. What it sets out to do basically is to be a new version of Indiana Jones. It's that kind of adventure. That's what it's aiming towards. And we should say from the beginning that it isn't, because Indiana Jones is a very particular kind of pleasure, and Indiana Jones was very surprising when it came out. People hadn't seen that kind of movie for quite a long time, and it was a surprise when it did as well as it did. It isn't in that league, but it is okay. And I know that sounds like damning with faint praise, but when you consider how much I didn't get on board with the previous movies, how much I went in thinking it's going to be another video game movie in which it'll demonstrate that whole thing, which is always the problem with video game movies, which is the video games are designed to be played, they're designed to be interactive, they're designed to have... You're not a viewer, you're a participant. And then if you take that and you turn it into a big screen thing, then all you are doing is effectively watching somebody else playing a video game, and that's always the problem that you have to get over. I thought it did. I mean, I think it's uneven, and I think it's patchy in places, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. And I think that Alicia Vikander makes makes that central role more convincing and more engaging than I thought it was possible to do, even if the film itself, for all its kind of, runny, jumpy action set pieces, even when those are sort of falling apart like the scenery, which everything is kind of, collapsing because of the way that the plot falls out, it's very ramshackle and it has longueurs in it. But I thought she was good enough to hold it together just about.